Hey everyone, Dan Telander here, aka me. Welcome to the second and final part of me and Virgil's album review on Trespass. Now, for those of you who missed our last episode, first off, go check it out. And to those who need reminding, you will find that firstly, these two parters were once one whole recording, and was decided during post-production to split into two. And secondly, you'll find that we concluded the first part at the end of Stagnation. So today we shall obviously be commencing from Dusk, as well as covering the B-sides plus trumpet. And as said, being the spontaneous split, please forgive us this time round for no obvious welcome to me and Virgil intro, as we'll be jumping straight into our conversation that kicked off with Dusk. However, also mentioned is an interesting mashup idea that was spontaneously born during this recording, of which involved using one of the Trespass songs plus a certain classic horror movie scene. So for those of you who don't wish to hear or see this, depending if you're on YouTube, there will be a small created snippet of this mashup idea taking place after the traditional bloopers post-credits. But don't worry, I'll leave 5 clear seconds of dead air for you in order to turn off in time. So be prepared once the bloopers begin. Naturally, for those of you who do want to hear the snippet or watch the snippet, just keep playing. And then look out for the full version we'll be posting exclusively on YouTube. Meanwhile, me and Virgil would like to personally dedicate these 2 Trespass-era episodes to the late Richard MacPhail and the late John Mayhew, who, without their unforgettable contributions to the band's history and beginnings, would have no doubt changed or even sealed the fate of the band's future and legacy that we still happily celebrate today. And finally, we thank you very much for listening and sticking with us over these past 2 episodes. And now enjoy our concluding part of Genesis's Trespass.
Well, me and Virgil, we meet the desert, riding fast and riding hard. We hit the city, the past behind us, we raced some hell, we had some fun.
And then sets up beautifully into the next song.
Yes, which is a beautiful dynamic change. It's like, okay, we now need to, because we have to rest because we know what's coming afterwards. So, yeah, again, this has kind of got like Anthony and Mike just written all over it with Dusk. Back to the acoustics. I presume the 12 strings on this track. Yeah, no, I had to. Yeah, with a little bit of. Well, I was gonna. It's not triangles, but it's these little bells.
What are they called? Yeah. So you're not going to have any sort of segue into Dusk. You're just going to start talking about it.
Dusk. That's my second.
Turn down the lights.
Yeah, well, I mean, sadly, I'm well beyond dusk here right now. It's dark here now, so
and it's too early here.
It's a shame. So we're not. This next song's not called Dark as it is here. It's called Dusk. So yeah,
and again, a nice calming down mood change, kind of like Visions of Angels to
true.
Slow.
It's
down,
yeah. It is a lovely track, and oh, goodness me, I made Knife take over everything. I did not even add any notes with Dusk. I forgot to add notes with that.
Where's I go here? Originated with a piece written by Phillips and Rutherford, with Phillips writing most of the lyrics. It's Anthony and Tony on backing vocals in harmony, which sounded beautiful. And then this one I have the line that Peter sings, "Does the well run dry?" And his voice sounds dry. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
And it's like, well, hold on a minute. I thought, well, you have been saying since the last song, I want a drink.
Yes, that's true.
But sadly, the wells run dry, so you can't.
But just again, the way he sells it, the way he makes his voice sound like, again, it's like this is something you get like on the fourth take maybe or something. They didn't get that. They had this limited time to do everything, and they got it so right.
And then the poor guy's got to play.
Make it seem so easy.
And then he's got to play the flute with the dry throat. Yeah, impressive.
But that's all I've got on Dusky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful track, and it was really wonderful to hear on the archive box set that there was a demo version of Dusk, and it was really cute to hear like that. I presume in the studio was still John Mayhew. I might be wrong. It might have been the previous drummer, which would have been Chris Stewart, I think, or John Silver. I don't know. They've had more drummers than Spinal Tap, I think, almost. But and there's someone's clicking sticks to keep time with the band. Even though
That's right.
Even though when the chorus kicks in, it's speeding up. So, and I think as Peter's now playing tambourine, he's kind of like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
follow,
right. That is there though.
Don't follow him.
remember that now,
Don't
yeah.
follow him for
on
tempo.
the,
Follow me now for the tempo, guys. Okay, keep
It's on
up
the
with me.
archive box set, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
Lost it.
almost exactly the same, but apart from this little like.
Yeah, they have a little more, don't they? Yeah,
It's like a Disney vibe about it, and then but then
it is a little too much. I'm glad I took that out.
Yeah, I mean, I love the flute solo, which I don't know how he did that though, but it was almost like he just kind of kicks into it with the yeah.
I mean, it's just being a very good musician with the flute. It's what it is.
Yeah, and yeah, he always.
I mean, you see this with flute concertos and again classical performers and stuff. Just it's very complicated music, but he's just putting it in rock music because he's just that good.
Yeah, and I think for what he did, it was fantastic. And yeah, he calls himself not. He says, "I can't play flute. I'm not a good flute player."
It's amazing.
You know,
Bloody wrong. I'll stick this in here since we're not saying much about Dusk. I did as I was listening to this over and over the last week, being like, I need to make a flute count to see how much flute there is on this album. You know, it must be in a lot of the songs. There's flute on every song in this album.
there is, isn't there? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Just to burst that bubble now. I have a flute note here, and I kept adding last night. Yep, there it is. There's some flute. Yep, there's some flute in that one. Yep, so everyone has.
Visions of Angels too.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just listen for it.
Well,
Next time you listen to the album, which will be, in an hour's time.
Probably,
yeah, listen for flute while you enjoy that remaster.
Great. I still kind of wonder, like, I love the way the album finishes because suddenly just out of nowhere you just got this massive deep piano chords.
This massive knife in the into the.
Well, it could be the case like where the piano's there and now you can just see the knife kind of coming out of the hustle of the. I was going to call it the hustle, but whatever you call the sling that the knife is in. I don't know.
Scabbard.
Well, I don't know. Maybe, but but no
sheath. I mean, sorry, scabbard for a sword.
Sheath. Yes. But because again,
not sheep, sheath.
A sheath, yes. The archive.
Unless you stabbed a sheep.
God no. The archive version, it carries on from there. It carries on this whole instrumental section and more flute playing as well. And takes off on this whole other adventure.
Where they're like, no, we need to be at 42. Gotta cut it down.
Yes, maybe that could very well be, yeah. So,
but it's another nice,
transition.
pastoral, choral, choir song that's just special just to this album and like nothing else. And then it peters out, and it's just again a fantastic transition
into
so
something.
Good.
Then now for something completely different.
Blow you effing away.
Yeah. Now for something completely different. A song with a great title that I'm sure Peter always loved so much to scream into the microphone to announce to the audiences at every gig. The knife!
about to begin. Tell me that I'm a hero. Promise me all of your violent dreams. Light up your body with anger. Now, with a sudden world, it's time to destroy this evil. Now, when I give a word, get ready to fight for your freedom. Now! Stand up and fight, for you know we are right. We must strike at the lies that will spread like disease through our minds. Soon we'll have power, every soldier will rest, and we spread out our kindness to all who our love now deserve. Some of you are going to die, martyrs of course to the freedom that I shall provide.
I just love. I love the way he's.
Or on the Genesis Live one, where he just says the knife.
Yeah.
And people scream.
Yes.
Because it is a literal, it's an audio stabbing you get.
Yeah.
Repeatedly throughout the song, you're just being stabbed
Yeah.
by
by
Myers.
Master
or
music.
Scream
Master
or whatever.
Master
Whatever serial
music.
killer you want, just stabbing you away.
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder if someone's done that.
What?
Someone should.
What?
Maybe you should do it. The famous scene of Psycho with the stabbing and play the knife over it.
Well, it's funny because he is talking about he is talking about Genesis and Phil Collins at one point in one scene as well.
Not in Psycho.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of
You're thinking American Psycho.
American Psycho. Yes. Yeah, getting my cycles.
But just the original
confused.
Psycho with the stabbing, yes. You should do that. But
Oh
the
right.
knife
So
over.
instead of the infamous strings, just
Yeah.
instead of just
Yeah.
being. Oh, we
That's
can
your next project.
we can hear what's going next now. Yeah. Well, am I going to include it there? I'm not too sure. I don't know. Let's see. But then again, maybe it might be a bit something like that might be a bit visual for YouTube. But then again, Alfred Hitchcock says there's no stabbing going on in that scene. You can see a belly, but there's no stabbing. There you go. So, yeah,
And then the blood.
which is apparently chocolate syrup or something like that. So
Of course it is.
yeah. Anyway, back to this stabbing of a song. So what's really cool with this is like, right, Anthony, go crazy. All right, this is your chance to really shine. And
I mean, everyone goes crazy in
oh
this.
yeah, everyone just goes mental in this one. Now, again,
Actually
remastered
turning up to 11.
version. The rhythm in the verse is like the drums. It almost sounds like as if there's an extra drum happening there, which there probably is. Maybe he's just like thumping because he got that little snare happening.
Could there be Peter on the what's the kick drum?
Yes, it must be. That would make sense. Yes.
Give it that little extra, like he likes to do on stage. Cheers.
That has to be it. It's probably Peter adding that extra kick drum, which would make sense.
Thump.
Because to this day, I still haven't worked out where that would be placed. You know, the kick drum from Peter. So you see, so it probably
What
is
do you
there. Well, it says Peter plays bass drum on the album, and it's
right.
like,
Where's it?
and it's like, well, where is he playing bass drum? I don't know. So
It's over there, isn't it? No,
Yeah.
that's what I thought you meant. Like, I thought you meant physically. Like, what do you mean? He's just gonna die? Apparently, it was originally titled "The Nice" as a tribute to the band.
oh,
The
the
Nice.
nice, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
talk
right.
about a polar opposite title to what it would become.
But yet, sadly, it was a very dark meaning behind the song as well. Mm-hmm. That there was.
Do you want to give the history or shall I?
You're better at history. Well, you give a better
Well, just because
explanation.
I copied it. Where is it? The song spoken word interlude in which a group of soldiers fire on a crowd of protesters was inspired by the Kent State shootings from the previous spring. The killing of 4 and wounding of 9 unarmed college students by the Ohio National Guard on the Kent State University campus. Shootings took place on the 4th of May 1970 during a rally opposing the expanding involvement of the Vietnam War in Cambodia by the U.S.
Yeah. So, yeah, for such a great, it's quite a dark. Quite
Peter,
dark behind
Peter
it.
said, was it Peter? Hang on. Yeah, Gabriel said it was something more dangerous compared to their delicate acoustic numbers. It was the first, and he also said it was the first peak of a darker energy that we discovered.
Yes. Yeah, and
Lasted up to 19 minutes in concert. But was reduced to 9 on the album.
Yeah, I would love to have been there where they said I would love to have. I mean, I would love to hear the demo version of The Knife, what it was like if it was that vibe, that tempo. You see, or someone suggested like, why don't we just put a bit more, beef into this? So
yeah. Kind of like just to call back to The Geese and the Ghost. If you remember, there's one that called it's the start of side 2, Mushroom Cloud. I think it's Mushroom Cloud.
I think that's the one that has this big.
Yeah, and so all they did was they sped up a thing that they used in I think actually the next song, which is slowed down. That sounds really nice. But then they said they apparently played around with it. And it sounded really cool, and he really wanted to use it, so he stuck it on its own, this little song. But this kind of sounds like that too, of just...
Yeah.
And I feel like, compared to like looking for someone where it feels like these different pieces they put together, this just feels like a whole chunk of rock song, hard song that just plays all the way through. It doesn't feel like assembled pieces,
No. And it's a great one to have, to say like, well, did they ever have any rock in them back in the day and everything? It's like...
My notes here says it feels like a medieval rock song of knights going into battle at a castle siege.
Yeah.
I have here the flute bit that he plays towards it. It's like a army marching. It felt like it's like
in the breakdown.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I felt like is that almost a thing he called back a bit, whatever later with Battle of Epping Forest.
True.
Similar battle song, yeah.
Ooh, that is true. It's like
yeah, as you said, Anthony Phillips just murders the guitar on this. It's so next level. Honestly, in some ways, like the album is perfect as it is. The song is almost its own thing that it's too good for the album. It feels like it should be on its own separate piece because it's so special and magnificent. You do hear this is where Peter Gabriel's playing his tambourine. You can hear. The way because it was interesting to hear this too, with the way the guitar is building and building to like a crescendo bit. It reminded me a bit of Tony's Apocalypse 9/8 building and building and building too. In some ways, yeah.
That's true. Yeah. The now I got a note here as well, which I didn't really realize until today, and I don't think it's anything to do with the remastering, but I just never thought about it. The whole breakdown there, Steve. I was about to say Steve, and for a very good reason. Anthony is kind of bringing in the sound vibe with volume up and down again.
Yeah.
Who ends up bringing a trademark sound like that as the next guitarist in the band? It's got Steve written all over it, and it's almost like a ginormous foreshadowing of the kind of guitar sounds they're going to bring in here. And it didn't hit me until today hearing that. It's like, wow. He's bringing in this technique, which is something that Steve Hackett does so much, And it was just such a bizarre moment to hear that, and it's like, oh, we're literally one song away from, from hearing the next.
I mean, that is the thing about Anthony Phillips leaving the band and everything. It wasn't like he just dropped off the face of the earth and no one ever talked to him again. I think he was still in lots of ways part of the band and chatted with various members. I'm sure he met Steve a number of times and all this stuff.
Yep.
Possibly worked with him and all these different things. That there was still this communication and chatting about music and stuff going on, I would think, with everyone that kept some things alive and had them figure out what they were as a band and what they were going for and stuff.
Well, I mean, when the Anthony Phillips album came out, we're suddenly realizing it's like, oh, Michael Rutherford on bass, 12-string guitars. Phil is on drums, and he's singing a couple of songs as well.
And it was actually recorded a lot earlier. Thanks, Tabletop Genesis, once again, for the wonderful interview they did with Anthony Phillips and all this stuff, too. But that was recorded a long time before. It just took Anthony a very long time, like over a year, to find a record company to make it. Yeah, and they had it recorded and done and everything. So
it didn't really hit me until afterwards. That's like, oh God, you've got two different generations of Genesis coming together between Phil and Anthony Phillips. You see, that must have just been such a
missing bridge that wasn't there before. Now it is,
massive missing bridge. Yeah.
And then the last note I have is, where is it now? Blah blah blah. Perfect album closer. Talk about going out on a bang.
Aha! You literally beat me to it. Yeah, I was about to say a perfect album closer. There's no other way you can close that album with that. And I mean, I believe they always ended their shows with it too.
Starts here and it's on the back.
Yeah.
Is where the
Yeah, and that's how I think they kind of ended their shows. And I think Peter pretty much destroying the mic stand and things like that.
That's how it ends on the Genesis live album. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, him like just, and then you see like the footage of them playing at like what is it called? Where they're with Phil and Steve, and it's that historical concert from '73, I think, where the Foxtrot stuff is already out as well, and then they're doing the knife, and then Peter is just like got the microphone and the mic on the stand, just bring it into the audience.
Yeah, with the crowd.
Scream,
yeah.
And then
Now, did he do that stuff as well on his solo stuff too? I feel like Peter has done that.
Oh yeah, I
Maybe,
think he has. Yeah,
cool
but then he's like literally just tosses the mic stand and just storms off.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's all part of the act, isn't it?
it's all part of the act. Yeah. So you could. It's an incredible album closer. You just like right.
And then of course they did it also much later as well as an encore number. But was it the last encore number? I can't remember if they did it before I Know What I Like or
Who with Peter
in the later 70s with when it was Phil singing it.
Well, I think it varied. I can't say for sure, but I know for a fact that when they played the Lyceum, they did I Know What I Like, and then they came back out for the knife, and it was and I think we mentioned this as well because the footage was so rare that the cameras were gone, and I think there was one little camera left, which was literally filming the side of the stage there because they just didn't think they were going to come back on. I presume that was the reason behind it.
Guess they didn't wait to see if the house lights were on to know. Yeah, amateurs. But just the point I was just making there's another time where they ended it with that song. What a way to go out.
Yeah.
It was a shorter version. They shortened it down a bit to like 5 minutes, but still.
Yeah. But one thing I really love, which is quite a touching, it's a fitting moment. Literally, the last thing you hear on this album is just the ringing of John Mayhew's cymbals. That's literally the last thing you hear. Which is very appropriate because it's like
I noticed that too.
It's almost like we're waving him off now, and sadly with Anthony as well, But it's like it's the only album with the new drummer. You see, it's just a nice fitting touch to it. And I always love hearing that. It's just kind of like you can breathe now. You can breathe. You can come out. You can come out. It's safe to come out now.
Your ears are literally ringing.
Yeah. So that is Trespass. Genesis is first album with Charisma. First album as 20-year-olds, Charisma, and sadly that is the end of that lineup. However, little did we know years later that turns out that was not all that they did with that lineup, isn't it? So what came out in 98? Archive box set. And it's like, oh look, check this out. That lineup, they did 3 numbers recorded at BBC Studios, Shepherd and Pasadena, and also the Anthony Phillips heavy song "Let Us Now Make Love." Wonder who that was about. Wonder who we wrote that for again. Oh dear, just hit me now.
So we're talking about B-sides now, are we?
Well, the album's done. So
I was going to talk about the album cover for a bit.
Oh,
that's what I have my rundown.
Oh yes, okay. Well, maybe I could.
We'll get to the B-sides.
Maybe I could switch this around. Who knows?
Yeah.
So that's the end of Genesis to Revelation. What the hell?
What?
So that is the end of
the first Genesis album, Trespass. Yeah, you got confused.
The end of Trespass here. I just remembered at the start of the episode before we did anything, I was gonna say. So here we are, episode 6. Somebody get me out of this cage, and then you say what? They were doing Trespass. Anyway, that's out. So yes, the album cover.
Actually, we had it the other way around, didn't we? Or did you flip it?
No, I deliberately flipped it just now. You see, okay, so yeah. So Yeah, the cover.
I mean, I can show you stuff, but I realize you're going to be putting the pictures up right now. I'm sure. So
well, for our dear listeners who unfortunately can't see it, but yeah, I will.
They can if they just watch the YouTube version.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, but this is one of my favorite album covers of their entire career, because again,
Really?
it's because it's so detailed and it paints the picture so well.
Hey, it's no shapes.
For the God, no, it's no shapes, it's no invisible touch, So
What do I got? So the cover showed two people looking out of a window at mountains, which represented the pastoral themes of some of the songs. Paul Whitehead did it, who did some other ones, had finished the cover, and then the band added the knife to the running order. Feeling that the cover no longer fitted the mood of the album, they asked Whitehead to redesign it. When he was reluctant to do so, the band members inspired him to slash the canvas with an actual knife.
But then he was also reluctant to that, wasn't he? Because didn't Peter do it? Or was that Peter's idea?
I don't know. That's what I'm just got here.
Yeah. I think I was either Peter's
Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he didn't want to destroy it, and so he.
Well, yeah, I think
they
either
just,
it was Peter's idea to do it, or Peter did it himself. I don't know. So
I don't know if it was the original was a gatefold, but there's an interesting bit of indication, so better picture of some nice little bit of illustration here. I'll bring it close to you. Yeah, it's very Geese and the Ghost again, and all that.
It's completely Geese and the Ghost. Sorry, folks. This picture, whatever the picture is, it's completely Geese and the Ghost. That cover, that inlay.
I mean, it's
there.
not exactly, but it's similar. Yeah.
No, yeah, amazing. I think I remember back in the day, you and I were looking at that album cover, but not that version, but on the cassette. And we're like, well, there's the people out there looking for someone. There's the White Mountain there. Oh, look, there's an angel there on the side there, you see. And then, of course, there's the knife. We're just like, right. And we're just like, so what represents their stagnation and dusk? And we're like, well, is the sky view looking a bit dusky, twilighty? So, I don't know. And, of course, the people are just stagnating, looking for someone. So, I don't know. So,
Right. But yes, it is a very nice cover, and I mean, what you could practically say, I guess Trick of the Tail is really perfect too. But, talk about the cover working for the album, the music that's on it and everything. Like, maybe this is the perfect one. This one does exactly match the music.
Well, I mean, a lot of them, we can have a whole episode about that too and everything. I mean, Trick of the Tail also, in a way. For
and
me.
Wind and Wuthering, I think, too.
Yeah. I mean, we all know what number one is. And then there were three.
Not shapes, huh? Yeah, because I mean, just to go a little bit into this tangent of, but yeah, because you think about, I mean, Duke, it's cool and everything, but it's just
a guy
came up with the picture and stuff.
Yeah.
Invisible Touch, it's cool and everything, but it's the hand and it's pretty obvious stuff. Whereas this is just, and even like Nursery Crime and Trespass, it was kind of like they pulled, the guy knew what he was doing from the songs and stuff and just stuck it in there. Whereas this feels. I mean, it's a similar thing of adding things, but it just feels more natural, more accurate, and more fitting to the actual music on the album, more so than the other ones. But that's just personal opinion. We'll have a whole episode on album covers
and
at some later point.
It's interesting how the generic theme of this cover looks blue, and then we jump from that to Nursery Crime, which looks all like yellow.
One thing that just came to me earlier, which I wanted to think of, because we all feel like Wind and Wuthering is definitely a wintry album. Autumn album. And then there were three is the wintry album, Duke is more summery. So what would this one be? Could it be spring? It feels like a cold one too, though, in some ways, I think. I feel like it's spring or autumn, definitely. Or spring and autumn.
It could be a variation. I don't know. It could be a few.
What if it's the 4 seasons?
It could be. It could be all 4 seasons in there. I don't know. Because
I love Vivaldi, so that makes sense.
When you with the shootings, which is what the knife is about and everything, wasn't that the summertime anyway that took place?
In May, yeah.
In May, okay.
In May is when it happened, yeah.
So
there you go. So it's a 4 seasons then, but it's again covering all different moods.
I mean, we have a white mountain, but that just could be a mountain that's just really high up. So we've just got snow in there the entire time.
It's always white.
Yeah,
like the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
Let's do, before we do B-sides, let's do favorite song, least favorite.
Ooh, that's tough.
Should we do bad first, least favorite?
Okay. Bad.
Did I totally derail? Did that totally derail you? I just get the
That-
bad
that-
stuff out first.
Okay.
There is no bad song on the
There
album.
is
it's
no
the
bad.
secret.
There is no bad song, but echoing back to what I was saying before, the one that stands out the most in not fitting as well is Visions of Angels. You see, so and to certain, if someone said to me like, yeah, but come on, you got to find something to nitpick with it. It's like, okay, fine, it repeats itself quite often. That's what those endings, So
That's my same favorite. It was actually tied up with that in Dusk as being kind of lesser songs, but again, hearing it more recently and last night, I just like Dusk more.
Yeah.
And Visions of Angels is just there's a little bit missing from it. Also learning that it was from the from Genesis to Revelation session and stuff like that, it kind of makes sense. Then it is a little lesser developed and stuff. So so good. We agree.
We agree. So then
Genesis bros.
Yeah. So then your yeah. So your favorite?
So this changed last night when I texted you.
Whoa.
When I WhatsApped you, because for a long time it was looking for someone.
Yeah.
Because it was on my top one, whatever. But last night, hearing the knife, very high volume on the vinyl, I was just like, oh my god. It's like destroying myself inside and just goose pimples and turning to sludge, turning to a pool of tears. It was just like, it was destroyed. The way it just kept building and building and building, and just every piece too, just with the guitars and the keyboards, everything, the singing, just like, this is a beautiful song.
A beautiful song. The Knife is a beautiful song. All right. Well, sadly, we're not Genesis bros here. Well, for me, it's Stagnation.
Stagnation.
That's definitely there. Just the journey it takes, and especially listen to the remaster today with the Mellotron and all and these things and everything. That it just created a whole new light for me, and I love it. The change of dynamics, because the Knife, okay, fair enough, it has that big breakdown. But otherwise, it is pretty much solid rock all the way through, you see. So, and I just love the journey this
It's just that build that I get the same feeling, as I said, from Supper's Ready, that just makes me want to explode.
Yeah. I get that too, yeah.
We have one.
Yeah. I want to drink. But, and I will take...
Not amongst the weeds and slimy.
I will take a drink in your face, Peter. So...
Is it slimy water?
Yes, slimy water. So...
Right. B-sides?
Yeah. B-sides. Don't know what that was.
Okay.
Anyway, so...
sounds like a Ray Wilson bit.
No. Sadly, that's a line taken from a Robert Williams, ironically, B-side song called Average B-side. So...
Don't tell Dave; he'll hit you.
Oh, I'm sure he will. He already threatened to make me walk to the next venue after announcing to the other people, saying the least. Oh no, it wasn't that, but saying like one of my favorite bands of all time is Simply Red. He was like, "What? Crime against music?" He put it. Anyway,
Dave has opinions that we often don't agree with. Anyway.
B-sides.
We'll get him on eventually too, and then we'll pick his brain and see what his top stuff is, and we'll rip it to pieces. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, we won't, because we love everything Genesis.
To be honest, and I'll include this in the episode. The other night we were on the tour bus driving from one place to the next, and Chris, the singer,
as
Chris,
you do on a tour bus,
as you do, Chris Barnes. We were driving. I love you, man. I was driving. Chris Barnes, singer. He's been into music since he was like, single age digits and everything. His dad was a musician and everything. So he just knows everything. The bass player Ricky sends him music quizzes whenever they can, and Chris 90% of the time gets the answers right, knows what trumpet player played on this track, and knows who did this, and blah 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 blah. So anyway, but he's also, as we're finding out, massive Genesis fan as well. The other night, he and the saxophone player Alex, they knew a lot of tunes together, and they're like, "Oh, this is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. This is Buddy Rich. This is that." Then Chris was doing his DJing, amazing array of music, and then suddenly I just started hearing this snare, and I was like, "It's the Battle of Epping Forest." And he puts it on. And
See, I thought you were going back to Simply Red, and I thought it might be Fairground.
No. I start hearing the snare and flute, and then Chris is like, "You'll never guess who this is, right?" And then I was like, "Okay, all right," and then the song comes in.
You're just there grinning the whole time.
Yeah, and, yeah. Chris is like, "Shh." To me. And then the song comes in, and then Al, within a few seconds, was like, "Is that Peter Gabriel?" It's like, "Yeah, it's Peter Gabriel." But then he's like, "But you'll never." Before he says that though, he's like, the drummer ends up becoming one of the world's biggest pop stars in the history, and I was like, "Okay." And then he says like, "Is that Peter Gabriel?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, so this is Genesis then, So, and then later on, he puts on Robbery, Assault and Battery, and it says like, this is what prog music is and everything. So I had a point to this though. Oh yeah, and Dave Fowler was sitting there as well, as we put on what was it? I think stuff from actually it was Battle of Epping Forest, and Dave was just sitting there because we had just listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer's first song on their first album, and it was mental. And then we put on Battle of the Big Forest, and Dave is just there. He's just like, "Oh, this is amazing!" going crazy.
Nice to be on the same page with something. Yeah, with him.
Yeah.
So back to the B-side. So I've got Twilight Alehouse, Shepherd. Pasadena. Let us now make love. Going out to get you.
Going out to get you. Going out to get you. Going out to get you. Pulpit of a python, chasing out the innocents defiled.
Going out to get you, is that true?
I don't know. I just wrote it down.
Okay.
I don't know why I wrote it down. Because Going Out to Get You isn't on From Genesis to Revelation, is it?
No.
No, so that's why I threw it on there. Is like, no. It could be a potential song they could have added onto the album.
Yes, but Twilight Alehouse, I know they did have it in their repertoire, and I know I mentioned in previous episodes that there is a version out there that does feature John Mayhew when they're playing it live.
The other thing I've said before about Twilight Alehouse is it feels like the sister song to Stagnation because of Tony's similar things he does on the keyboard again, the organ or whatever and stuff.
Yeah.
But it works.
But sadly, there's no official studio recording of them with John Mayhew, so all we hear is just with the awesome Phil and Steve, which we're not complaining about, of course.
But again, it's nice we got all these on the archive box set to enjoy.
Yes. Now I noticed that the other night you were sending me your own little playlist.
So I was about to say,
Trespass.
so would you have liked any of these to be on the album, and if so, which ones?
Strangely enough, today whilst on the flight over, I had made a little playlist. Twilight Alehouse was kind of difficult because again it stands out because the different musicians on it, So, but I did make my little playlist, adding all three songs: Shepherd, Pasadena, and Let Us Now Make Love. And I think it made the album longer, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
And so my placements, I actually put Looking for Someone, Shepherd, into White Mountain, because Shepherd has no drums or anything like that. It's just a calm piece, and I thought it's a nice little MIDI segue thing going into White Mountain as well. You see, so that was that, and then I think I went straight from White Mountain to Visions of Angels. Then from Visions of Angels had Pasadena. And then from Stagnation into Twilight Alehouse, and after that big explosion, Dusk, and then Let Us Now Make Love until the end of your time with a knife. So that's where I put it. That was my and I just thought, I really like it like that. You see, so yeah. But with just the 6 songs themselves, they sound brilliant. But yes, you were putting a little playlist together as well. I saw.
Yeah, I was doing. I couldn't. I felt because I wanted to be make it as kind of really what they might have done as close to realistic as possible. So I felt "Let Us Now Make Love" was too young of a song for them. They'd moved beyond that, and it would never have ended up on the album.
Yeah.
Twilight Ale House, I feel, does belong on the album and will be great on there. And I did try various versions with Shepherd's on there, and then Passity as well. But Passity again felt a little too early on for them too, just with the keyboard playing and stuff. It was like it almost kind of a similar way that we were saying with Visions of Angels, where it was a little too simple, whatever, and it felt like there could have been more.
Really?
And
Okay.
less shouting. I felt this was what I was feeling, because I was also in mind thinking of the vinyl and how much room, how many songs they could fit on there, because I was really being a purist about it, sort of thing, you know.
Sure,
so
sure.
I played with multiple. Changed this playlist around multiple times this last week, but I ended up with Looking for Someone. Shepherd again, because it really plays nicely, and then going into Stagnation, because Stagnation is such a strong song, and I feel like it deserves to be up there. I was almost thinking I guess you think of like Land of Confusion or Driving the Last Spike as such a punch of a song. You want it early on the album because it's such a good song. It should be on earlier, because usually you think of stuff on the other side of the album. It's the lesser stuff in some ways, even though it's never true for Genesis because everything is great. So I have that for Stagnation, and then ending the first side with White Mountain, because that ends actually very nicely as an album closer to, and some with the choral stuff and stuff. And then side 2 opens with Twilight Ale House, Visions of Angels, Dusk, and then The Knife. I tried really hard to see if I could have... I like the idea of ending the album with Twilight Ale House to give it more distance from Stagnation as separate pieces. But I was like, maybe The Knife would work well as a good opener for the second side of the album. But it's nope, The Knife just belongs at the end.
Nope.
That's where it has to be.
Yeah.
But we'll share links in the show notes for listening to these playlists too. Yeah.
Through Spotify.
Did you make a
I guess.
playlist?
Through
Well, yeah,
Spotify.
make it on Spotify. Exactly, yeah.
And
You can enjoy it and give us your opinions on what you think.
Yes.
Or if you think there's a better version, you make it and send it to us.
I have made it. I have made a better version. It's
Not
my
you,
version.
them. All the
them.
millions of listeners.
All the millions of listeners, yes.
Phil, there's people out there. Come on.
Sorry, everybody, I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying.
Phil, there's people out there. Really sorry, everybody. I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying.
Right.
Drum bit.
Drum bit.
So we've talked a bit about the drum, but let's talk about the drumming on the album, because
That's
it's not always great.
That's a
This is
fair-
a space
that's a
for
fair
that
play.
to vet some stuff about the drumming. And I put this in the drum bit mainly because I thought we were going to say a lot of bad things about the drumming, but I felt like all we're doing is saying good things because we're thinking about it more and taking it apart. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, the specific theme of the album, it's supposed to be an old, as we've said, medieval pastoral age. So you know what? Simple drums work better for it than complicated fancy drums. You know,
Exactly.
like the drumming on the Lamb, which is just like out of this world, and how Phil does it live and all this stuff is fantastic. But it works for the album. If you put that on this, I think it might sound too much.
Well, I would have been quite intrigued to see what Phil would have done on Looking for Someone and White Mountain, Visions, or whatever. And we know what Phil did on Stagnation because they did it for a BBC session, and he doesn't add that much more. It's just slightly.
Well, it's hard because then you also want to be accurate to the original song,
Yeah.
especially as the new guy who's joined now and doing the drumming and stuff. You got to play the song as fans want to hear it, so you're sticking to that original.
And I
style.
think he just adds a bit more fills, and the fills that do kind of are there, he puts his own stamp on them. That is
Yeah.
it. Otherwise, the main grooves.
He doesn't overdo it.
The main grooves are there, but the grooves are played differently. So yeah, exactly. You've nailed it right on the head. That it's medieval, pastiche, folky, and everything. So the drums are basic. Every instrumentation on the album again, these bunch of 20-year-olds, you see, they're all, it's just the perfect balance of playing on the album.
I mean, even down to like the bells and the cymbal. It's like this is what they had in the medieval times. It was that single drum sound and the dum.
Totally.
Whatever, yeah, exactly.
And I've grown even more respect for it again from these remastered versions. And so and it feels like we're being sponsored by any remastered things here, but we're seriously not. It was just a massive,
we all own
wonderful.
them. So yes,
it's a massive, not eye opener, but ear opener to really hear that. And I feel bad for John as well, but for two reasons. One, because even though he had the more live experience compared to the rest of them, it seemed like they had the more musical experience where they were literally telling him what to play and what fills to play. And yet it was Tony who said in the documentary saying like, oh, we wanted to get this guy John because
he impressed us because he was the only guy who could do this bum riff, which is what we really were looking for a drummer to do, you know.
Sounds like he knew how to play all the complicated stuff, but he wasn't very good at improvised playing it, coming up with it necessarily. So they're like, this is what we want it to sound like. We can't play it, you can, so you as the drummer, so you do it. But we have to keep telling you what kind of thing we want. Whereas Phil's just like, this is how I'm going to play it because I have a feel for the music as a drummer.
And we've mentioned this as well. Like when Phil joined him, Peter's like, oh, well, I guess me telling the drummer what to do anymore, that's out the window. It's like, it's slowly, because obviously, as we all know, Peter Gabriel started off as a drummer and everything. Yep. And it was his drums were his pride and joy, as he put it. And then it's like,
fine, I'll keep my kick drum, so I'll at least have one drum.
And it's like, and I'm going to tell the drummer what to do, so I'm still kind of involved in it and everything. And then Phil's there, and it's like, all right, I'm just a singer who plays flute, but I'm still keeping my kick drum, Phil.
So I'm going to put a little more effort into these insane lyrics.
Yeah. It's like, if I can't add more of my drumming knowledge, then I'm just going to write more lyrics. Yeah. It's like, I got an instrumental section, I'm just going to pound it with lyrics. So, absolute respect to John Mayhew. I kind of have to, and sadly, this is sad to remind ourselves, the sadly late John Mayhew as well, who died, well, quite a few years ago now. I think it was the early 2000s, I believe. He sadly passed. And also, the interesting story with him that because he kind of disappeared off the face of the planet. I think in his section of the chapter and verse book, he says that the day that he decided to quit music was when he was driving back from a gig he just done in Australia. It was buggering down with rain. I think
which in Australia is probably intense because you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's just like
and I think something happened with his car or something like this. I don't know, but anyway, he just come back from his gig with maybe $50 in his pocket, which he earned from the gig, and he's like, "What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, this isn't worth it.
This is not worth it." And
then a kangaroo beat him up, and that just pushed him.
So then he called it on the head, and fair play.
Kind of like Richard McPhail with him career changing.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, this may sound like I'm doing this spur of the moment, but maybe we should do an episode on Richard McPhail. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Maybe we should make it our next episode. We do.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Perhaps.
Did you guys buy it? Did we convince you?
Will you tune in?
Yes, that's our plan. Is for our next episode, we'll be on the late, wonderful, incredible, very special, one of a kind Richard McPhail.
One of a kind in the way of speaking too.
Yes, I've quoted him enough times here and just how he put stuff together. I mean, that book was amazing.
Yeah, but that's true. So John Mayhew, when he re-emerged, I don't know how it came to pass, but basically it was like, oh, someone's got contact with John Mayhew again. Okay, well, tell him he's owed royalties. Okay, lots and lots of royalties,
and it's going to be more than $50 in your pocket this time.
But I think he was saying what a wonderful feeling that was, that these guys had kept these royalties all these years, didn't spend it themselves, didn't cheat, didn't like just flush it away. And he just was really touched by that, and how they said, like, we've got like almost 30 years worth of royalties.
I mean, I think that shows in how long the band has gone on, even having members leave and stuff like that, that they've still stayed close friends. Because how often is it, and I'm sure the Police is part of this, I don't know about the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, I mean, how many bands are part of this where money sours relationships because of how it's handled and done with stuff? And that's never been a thing with this band, even though Phil went on to become one of the biggest musical icons in the history of music, up there with Michael Jackson. It still doesn't change anything. They're still all good mates. All this stuff.
Yeah.
They still care about each other and help each other out, and that money was never came between them.
And he still kept working with them, regardless of how.
Even other projects, Anthony Phillips, whatever it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he still kept working with it. He was still.
I think he showed up on a few. If he did, Mike and the Mechanics albums, maybe in a little bit. I know Tony did on one of them, or two of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know.
It's just
Obviously, he did show up on a couple of Peter Gabriel albums as well. So yeah.
There you go. I mean, it's just all this.
And then
respect
Peter
and love for each
Gabriel.
other.
That's right. And then Peter Gabriel showed up on one of his albums. He's singing backup vocals on "Take Me Home."
Yep.
So it's the loyalty. That's what it is. It's the loyal.
And I mean, that
loyal
goes to
family.
show. So it's not just the amazing talent with the music and stuff, but they're just really good people.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting though, because trying to focus a bit more on the actual drumming on the album as well, that it is for, again, a guy's 20. I think he was 20. I think he might have been, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was either one of the older ones of the group, or he was the younger one of the group. But anyway, so whether it was 19, 20, or 21, around that age, that for what he was doing, again, it was like really, he could play it, and he had a good timekeeping as well. But like I said, I was just blown away today by hearing the stuff he did, like on White Mountain. This fast hi-hat stuff, like I said, that is not easy. All right, that's like Stuart Copeland Police stuff almost happening there, and a lot of what's called syncopated bass drums, where your bass drum is not just playing with the beat. If you're clapping along with the beat, the bass drum is there. No, bass drum is like going everywhere else except there in time. Things like with White Mountain as well. So it's really impressive stuff and wonderful for what it is there. And I think it's nice with Phil that he will then just take it to that extra next level. So things like Stagnation, and then later with Steve with The Knife, that it brings a whole, again, new lease of life to it.
Well, a new thought that's occurred to me now is just because they were doing music, a kind of music in a way that's unique. Only Genesis does this. No other prog bands do this kind of music. And this was the first time they were doing it. So it wasn't like he could listen to From Genesis to Revelation and be like, okay, I know what to kind of expect with the music you guys are going to do, so I'm ready to play with you guys and do it. Yeah. It's like, no, they're making these new songs and they're totally different to anything else ever done. Phil, on the other hand, has Trespass to listen to and kind of get a feel of how they do music and things like that. So he has a little bit of help in that way, and also listening to all the other guys auditioning, so he knew the piece to do, and they actually did it too. Yeah. But he has that little extra help, whereas John was coming with nothing, and had to kind of learn. And as you said, because he was someone who knew how to play this stuff, and even if he had to be coached along the way, he was able to do it and try, find the right kind of drum that worked for this music they were making.
And I have to say, I have to say, there was a certain moment where in one of the bands I was in, I was starting to feel a little bit like John Mayhew, because I think just because I wasn't sure of the direction where this band was going, and I wasn't sure if I was the biggest fan of it either. This is the band that occurred after that whole, let's record the focus like this. So the arts had now become the band's sphere. And there was a song where it said, can you play a sort of fill at the end there? And I'm like, what fill do you want? They're just like, just try and come up with something. And I just couldn't come up with anything. And then the guitar player, whose name was Tommy, he could play the drums, and he was like, well, something like this, and he sat down and just played this fantastic fill, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do that then. So I kind of felt like, see, Peter and Tony telling me what to do, you see.
But there's also a line of crossing with that's not why you're in the band, to be told what to do. That's not your job here. I mean, and that's also a bit of a session drummer's job too, in some ways. It's like, this is how you want me to play the song. This is how you're going to play it. but you're not. That's why you're not in the band. You're in the band to contribute to the music and make something new. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was Tony's idea to say like let's find a different drummer, and I think it was a
kind of a group thing because they were all kind of agreeing on it. We'll talk about it I think a bit because I have notes on it from MacPhail's book, and we'll talk about it in that episode and stuff. Just him when they decided on it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just it was a sad day for John Mayhew, but he totally got it as well at the same time. So yeah. Oh yeah, we'll mention about as well like to do with their fee for the week and everything, and John had something to contribute to that, which gave him dagger eyes. Yeah, so I think he did a wonderful job with it, and I love listening to it. The sound of the drums as well is very different to what was going to come with Phil and everything. Just quite a fat sound he had there as well.
Just makes the album more unique because it's nothing like it.
Yeah, and like I said, White Mountain is fantastic. The dynamics with it as well. Looking for Someone, it just fits. It is like an instrument, just connecting all the dots together with what he does there. So,
I mean, I always feel like
John Mayhew.
If you do a weird thing here, if the knife doesn't exist, this album could probably be called The River or something, or just because it's just a beautiful flow, pastoral flow to it and stuff, whatever.
True.
How it moves along and stuff. It works so well with each song. I'd say even better than, at least definitely I think even better than Nursery Crime and Foxtrot with how, I mean, there's all fantastic songs on there, but how they work together as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That wasn't really done again. I would say it wasn't even really done again until The Lamb.
The Lamb, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like Trick of the Tail has that, for example.
Oh, massively.
And Wind and Wuthering too.
And Wind and Wuthering.
Perfect. Yeah.
I was going to say maybe a little bit on Selling England. But not
it's hard because so many of those, a little bit, but again, those songs, it was almost like they do the commercial album, right? But it was just, they knew what they were doing and they were making such incredible songs, but they don't, because of how much, I think, I don't know, there was at times fighting over what was going to be kept and cut and do all these different things that it changed it a bit. It wasn't quite the same flow.
That's true.
Definitely I feel as the more we talk about it, it puts this album even higher up. What a special album it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I don't really have much more to say about it other than it's really wonderful drumming for this album.
The other note I had on here was to talk about Ant leaving, but I feel like we covered a lot of that already and how special this album is because it has Ant and because it has John Stewart and all this stuff. Yeah,
it was a beautiful world of Genesis that sadly was very, very short-lived, but we still have it. We still have the golden gem, and who knows what would have happened if, say, John Mayhew did stay, got some lessons, Anthony stayed.
I mean, you could even make the point: what if in the next album, John he got it by doing this album with them and gets what they're going for? So now the next time around, he can contribute more because he knows what they're going for.
Because they would have, because like I said, one of the songs from the Jackson tapes we had, where the musical box, they would have kept that piece going. And John, I mean, the Jackson tapes, there's a whole bunch of John Mayhew on that as well. And again,
actually, I will say,
sitting there very beautiful.
You can get actually some more of this type of stuff by listening to a lot of the Anthony Phillips. What does he call it? Parts and pieces. I can't remember what the various collections he has. He has like 12 of them or something.
It's like Private Parts and Pieces, I think it's called.
Something like that, yeah. But it's just random things he's collected over the years, and he released a new one, I think it was like parts 10 through 12 earlier this year.
Nice.
But it's a lot of that stuff you can hear, this album type of stuff in there with his playing.
Yeah.
I do also love he has... it's an acoustic album of just instrumental stuff that's all... probably some 6-string, but a lot of just mostly 12-string, called Strings of Light. It's a double album, and it's just wonderful.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. And if you want to, so that's true. If you want to hear more of this Genesis from this particular chapter in their lives, then just check out Anthony Phillips stuff. I mean, he does vary in everything. There was an album I think he released either 80s or 90s, which is a lot of synthesizer stuff. But still,
was it called Chess?
I can't remember what it was called, but I
think it
listened
was
to,
like 83 or something. It was very different. Yeah.
But I listened to, and I might be. I think it was an album from the '90s he released, and I listened to it, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is amazing, amazing stuff."
And he sings great too.
He's a great singer. He does play drums. He plays keyboards. He plays guitars. I mean, he
plays drums on Geese and the Coast with Mike.
Yes, he is the keyboard. I think if I'm correct, he's the keyboard player on Peter Gabriel's debut solo album. Anthony Phillips, I believe. Yeah. If you look on the credits, there it says
So the lesson is his piano playing got better. Give him a chance. Maybe they should have given John Mayhew a chance. But then we won't have Phil in the same way. So
well, that's the thing. Phil probably would have ended up getting the what's it called, the job with Yes. Apparently, he was called into audition for Yes.
This would be the Yes podcast now. Then
it would have been the Yes podcast. I know Roger Taylor was around as well to potentially audition for Genesis at some point. So I don't know. Could have. Then Queen would be a very different band as well. All these, we get to a parallel universe and like Queen is not Queen, Genesis is something different. All these people it's like this doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Right. All right. Any last things? I think we're pretty good on. We've trespassed beyond the stagnation, and now it's actually is getting to dusk out here, so I think we should get ready to call it a day. But we're planning on for our next episode. We're going to do Richard MacPhail. Talk about Richard MacPhail.
We'll have to. I guess we could just call it something like Richard MacPhail's life in Genesis, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, respect to him, and respect to J. John Mayhew as well. Dedicate this album in his wonderful memory. And
I will show off, which I showed you earlier too, that this arrived for me today, which is the new vinyl box set of both sides that just came out. The all sides version in there. It's got 5 records in here, a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Wow.
But it might be a hint we were saying of us doing an album episode on both sides at some point.
Mm-hmm. Totally, because that was a special era for our lives as well. Because, I think I was going to mention this. I was going to mention about the meet and greet story that I told, but we'll save it for the both sides episode. Actually,
okay,
that'll make more
cool.
sense. Yeah. Very quick.
But it's a special album to us in many ways. Like We Can't Dance, it's a special album. So,
it's actually very funny that you mentioned Phil, because as I was leaving my hotel today in Halifax before going to get onto a plane to fly here, every time I got out of the elevator to go to my room, there was always some rock music playing and everything. Literally leaving the hotel, and I'm hearing the tail end of Phil screaming, "I don't care anymore." And it was just like, I was
That's
like,
an interesting one.
All right. Well, I do recall that he did release that song as a single in the States. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, even though I was in Canada.
That's not one that usually gets played on the radio as much.
No,
so, yeah.
no.
Cool.
But yeah, so it was just fun.
But you're in Canada, so anything can happen.
I know. Yeah, I was just going to say, But yeah, it was just nice to hear that. And then to be here now to hear this, and then you getting that record and everything. So yeah. Oh, yes, I can definitely see the dusk is settling on your skin. Anyway, yeah, I know. All right. Well, thank you very much, people, for tuning in.
Very much so, yeah.
We
hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, we definitely enjoyed.
As you can tell,
this album apart. Yeah,
as you can tell, we're rather fond of this album. We hope you are too. Let us know your thoughts, your comments on this album, what you think of it. John Mayhew.
My love has definitely grown over the last week, listening to it more, and maybe yours has too. So we'd love to hear about it. Yeah, how you feel about it. When you first came to it, what led you to it and stuff.
Yeah. See what you think of maybe John and Anthony had stayed, what the band would have become. And what you think of the live versions, which, as far as we know, is just Stagnation, Knife, and White Mountain. So, but any of you happen to have bootlegs somewhere of this band still playing this stuff with John Mayhew live somewhere, which is still undiscovered, then please let us know. And
so you insinuating people from parallel dimensions are getting this podcast? Because I do my best to distribute this everywhere, but I don't know if I can go that far. You can hear them from across the universe and beyond.
Well, let's just hope that one day we do get the full footage finally of the Roundhouse performance, because that is by far the most golden, the largest gem of any piece of Genesis history to have. So yeah. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks a lot. Yep.
And we shall see
The credits
you all
will
next
roll,
time.
right?
Yeah, we shall see you all next time.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Meanwhile, stay safe and make sure no one trespasses in your way. Yeah, no.
Especially not with a knife.
No. Yeah. If you see a white mountain,
Otherwise, make sure
Check
you
it
have a
out.
wolf with you. Yeah. One
Yeah.
eye. Or fang.
yeah. All right. I know we can go off in here. Anyway, so it is good night from me.
And good night from Virgil.
Good
Until
night
next time.
Until next time. Ciao, ciao.
Me and Virgil chop some wood, but we stop our swinging just to listen to a cry.
Thank you for listening to Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you can get new episodes as soon as they're released. Feel free to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to mention us to your Genesis friends so you can agree or disagree with what we talked about on the show. Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast, is edited by Dan Telander and produced and hosted by Dan Telander, aka me, and Alex C. Telander, aka Virgil. If you'd like to reach us to let us know what you thought about this episode, or if you wanted to correct something we were very wrong about, you can reach us at meandvirgilpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Looking for someone.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok under the handle meandvirgilpod for announcements and info about the show, as well as anything else we think you'd be interested in related to all things Genesis. For now, thanks again for listening. We really appreciate it, and see you on the next episode of Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast.
Well, me and Virgil, we beat the desert, riding fast and riding hard. We hit the city, the past behind us, so we raised some hell, we had some fun. And to this day, I can hear my saying to me, you're a big boy now.
Ciao, ciao.
I don't know. No, but I put.
Now that's an outtake. That face.
What's going on?
It doesn't
Good
like you,
Lord.
Dan.
No, maybe I just do this. It's the one thing I hate with these webcams. You just can't control the blurriness. They say, "Oh, don't worry, it's automatic."
Yeah, automatically blurry, and then ruins everything.
Yeah.
Really?
Ah.
I didn't know that. Okay. But he can't hear it, can he?
No, I can.
Oh. Well, he says he can now. Okay, good. All right, see you later.
I'll have some chocolate instead. Oh, chocolate with some orange.
While you're giving me a moment, taking my socks off.
Ah, okay.
You want this in the footage.
Well, it's going to be in the bloopers at the end, probably, most likely. Yo, what's happening? Yo,
I can
yo,
read
yo, yo, yo. Okay, and now.
There's your intro for the episode. Your outtake intro.
Okay, yeah, I think I will make that an intro.
See, well, this is what you get if you keep listening to the end of the episode. This is all bonus material we didn't put in the original part of the episode.
Oh, no!